Wem.
And I'm Lewis.
This is the Forest School Podcast.
Let's go! On.
Yeah. Hello, listeners. We're in the woods. It's a bit windy, but we're in the kitchen with a cup of tea. And we are very pleased to have Jen and Karen here from the Elves and the Fairies. Or the Elves and Fairies.
Wait, what?
You say it right.
The Elves and Fairies Woodland Nursery.
Yes. In
Dorset.
In Dorset. Yes.
Sweet. And we've met you guys a few times, but we wanted to come and have a proper... We've chatted...
I've chatted to you guys lots, actually, I think, in passing.
Many times, but we wanted to have like a dedicated... Some people will be listening and go, that's the person with the CDs.
Yeah.
With the song.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, hopefully.
But we want to have a proper dedicated chat with you guys. Because... Now, I'm going to try and get the claim to fame right. First, Ofsted Outstanding...
In 2017.
And was it first Ofsted Outstanding
Outdoor
exclusively
nursery?
Outdoors? What was the...
That we know
what's
of.
the criteria?
I think...
Check, and that's what they said.
Yeah, that's what they said. But, I mean, how do you even know? How do you even find out if that's actually true? But, yeah, as far as we know, we were one of the first, if not the first, to have a fully outdoor nursery with an outstanding.
And when was that, sorry?
I think it's 2017.
And it made the press as well, didn't it? I remember seeing it.
Yeah, so at the time, the nursery, we only had like 10 kids enroll, and it was like 3 kids every day. And I hadn't been there very long when the Ofsted came in. And after it, I was like, well, this is not, we should be getting more families in now. We should be shouting about this. And we were all a bit like, oh no, we quite like just word of mouth. And we had a certain type of families coming in, quite alternative. And we're like, well, we're literally on, a doorstep of Verwood and Wimborne. We should be getting some of those people coming this way. So I contacted the Echo, and I don't think they ran it. And then somehow the BBC got hold of it, and then Sky News as well, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Separate videos, isn't there?
There is, which I'm putting one on the website, which... But, so that's how it sort of went massive. And then from that point onwards, we were oversubscribed. So we had loads of people trying to get in. There was no room. We even upped our kids. We used to be
16, didn't
we used to be 12 cap, and then we went up to 16. And and since COVID, actually, it's quietened down again now. So
We're trying to build it up, aren't we?
yeah. But yeah,
We've got a lot of interest at the moment. So
we do have a lot of interest
looking
again at the
forward
moment,
to
which is good.
Yeah.
So, personally, how did you get into outdoor ed? Like that, if that's I won't say that's the peak of the mountain because that's 5 years ago, but like, where does it start for you? How do you end up there?
So I come from a health background, so I worked in operating theatres. That was my pre-school, kind of childcare history. And then when my own children got to a certain age, I thought, this doesn't work with me anymore. So then I went into nursery education and went from the ground upwards. So worked through lots of different nurseries and preschools. And then I went to be a development officer for the local council. So I went into that, did that for 8 years. Then we got made redundant as a team. And I found my way into a nursery that did forest school, did my forest school training. Thought, this is what I want to be. This is where I should have been all the time. And then that particular nursery didn't work out. But then I found
We sort of met, didn't we, at
when I was doing my training.
So you'd done your training, but you'd missed a day, so you came back when I started my training, and that's how we met.
We met, yeah. And Jen told me about Elves and Fairies, and I was then doing some freelance work, so I did some work in schools and that kind of thing for a little bit.
Did work with Adrian, didn't you, as well?
A bit with Adrian, yeah. I did a bit for you, did a day, didn't I, on a Friday, and then gradually the hours became more available at Elves and Fairies. I ended up working there full time, went to deputy and now manager. So yeah, it's kind of, that's where I'm at really now, and this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
This is what I love, and I wouldn't do anything else now.
You found your people.
Found my people. Found my tribe.
Yeah.
People on the tribe. For me, say, where does that? Say, I worked with special education needs. I left school at 17. I had trained to be a nursery worker. Had a really bad time with my tutor, who said I basically wouldn't ever amount to working with kids that's a whole other story. And then found a job local to me in a care home, basically, and the lady said, do you want to come and do some art therapy and swimming? So I was like, yeah, that sort of gives me pocket money to be able to learn how to drive. She took me on within a week, saying that I was a natural with these particular type of children, and I worked there for 18 years, I think. Had my children. The place, I think times changed, and it basically whittled down to nothing, and we got made redundant, and so I went to another care home, which was awful. So I decided to try and keep myself in this very well-paid job, because my partner, he wasn't working so much. My kids were very small. I was like, I'll pay for some training. And I found out about Forest School. My daughter was going to Elves and Fairies already. So I sort of said, how do I get into this, Kirsty? And Kirsty's like, do your Forest School training. I was like, okay. And so did that, left that care home, went into a TAing role with the hope that I'd be able to do Forest School there, because they had this amazing woodland site with green wood workbenches, and it was just all beautiful. But they'd already paid for someone else to do the training, so they weren't overly keen on me doing it as well, even though I'd already trained. And then Kirsten said, well, come and do some volunteering work. So I did, and then again, just happened to be right time. Someone said that they weren't going to work there anymore. Kirsten said, do you want to? And I said, okay. And I've stayed there, and I've been there 8 years, I think.
A bit longer than me, haven't you?
Yeah.
I've been there about 6, 7 now.
Yeah, and again, it's where I'm meant to be, so yeah, love it, love my job, love every day.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in the routes that people take to Forest School, and whether there are like similarities for some people, and I remember once I think it was the Southwest Conference, I don't know if you guys were there, when Richard Irvine got people to stand in the circle about, like, if you have come to this job through a sort of earth sciences or kind of biology, that kind of thing, background, stand here. If you've come at it from a kind of childcare point of view, stand here. And then all these kind of concentric circles, and looking around and going, wow, actually this is such a diverse set of experiences and skills, but there's something in common with everybody, like this kind of thing in you that is drawn to it. It's
because I'm not even from a nature-based background as a child either. My parents weren't really into nature or anything, so this is kind of new for me.
See, I was.
But you
nature.
are, aren't you?
Yeah. So the site that House of Fairies on is basically where it's my playground. I grew up in the village.
wow.
A bit like you said, when you were podcasting, you said that you'd go over and take out scrap metal and stuff from wherever it was, and we used to take corrugated sheets across the field over to where the Elves and Fairies is, and build, Ewok dens and all sorts of break into. There's where the bothy is now. There used to be a storeroom for what do you call them? Not hunters, that's not my word, but whoever. And we used to break in there regularly and like take all the traps out, because they used to have the old proper snapping deer traps.
I did that too. I came home with a badger trap once. I didn't know what it was, and I got it from like a pheasant wood and dragged it all the way home. My mum remembers me coming down the street. I was like, "What's that?" She said, "Oh my god, she's got a sprung."
And we would regularly take these off and either set them off or hide them or whatever. I mean, I think my cousin even might have even broken into there and set the place on fire a couple of times. I'm not sure, but we did a lot of stuff in that whole wood that we've got. I know it really well, so
that's amazing. So you've got that relationship with the land. Wow.
I love it. I mean, we used to call it Dorothy's Cottage. That's what Mum always used to call it. She's like, there's Dorothy's Cottage, and we used to walk around it looking for Dorothy's, red shoes hanging out the side of it. I still remember it now. It's lovely. It's weird, but it's great. I just like being at home.
Have you told the kids that you used to play there?
Yeah, I do often tell them, don't I? And my house is really close there now. I literally walk across the field and I can, see my house. So, like, I did go away for a bit and I've come back to the village, but it's my playground. It's my home. It's my woods, really. I'd say that to you guys as well, wouldn't I?
Yeah, it's great for us having
it's my woods.
Board, because like when we have our adventure in the woods and we go out much wider and we go.
I took us to the stream, didn't I?
You took us to the stream, didn't you? And I'd never been there, and I would never have known how to get through the woods and across the field and through another little dip. And we ended up at a stream that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, and we had the whole day there with the kids, didn't we? Swimming in the stream, and it was just the best day.
It took a lot longer to get there than
we couldn't have done it.
That's childhood memories.
Yeah.
That's amazing, though. I don't think I know anybody else that works on land that they played. I'm sure it happens, but what we talk a lot about, like that generational thing that forest school builds on, and like, yeah, to have literally that connection with that woods.
That woods is it's my home. I know it really well, so.
That's magical. Yeah, I really. Occasionally, we'll like talk to people in the community who are like, "Oh yeah, Gadden, yeah, this is all this woods," and they talk about how they played here as a kid. And I if I ever have time and space to do this, I really want to do like a community project and like write down people's memories of playing here and then have it displayed somewhere, or like invite kind of grandparents who used to play here as kids to come and visit, or things like that. But it's quite hard to get in touch with people unless you've got that dedicated time.
If you're enjoying the Forest School podcast, we wanted to let you know about the ad-free episodes and exclusive bonus content that you can get by joining us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Children of the Forest today and become a Patreon, you get ad-free episodes of the regular podcast plus bonus things. Plus, when we have guests coming on, we try and get a little bit of a heads up and shout out there so that our Patreon supporters can ask us any questions that they want of those guests before the interview takes place. So head to patreon.com/Children of the Forest. We really appreciate your support. And not everybody will admit to setting a shed on fire when they're a child. So, most people are better keeping that under their hat.
Yeah. We did lots of cool stuff. So. Yeah. But yeah, it's just it takes you I guess for me as well, for my children, I wanted them to have the same childhood as what I had. So we moved back to the village, and obviously Ellie started at the kindergarten as soon as she could. And and then I sort of went from there really, and it gave them the childhood that I had that maybe we can't, as a society, maybe let them have anymore. I mean, we used to go miles. We literally were gone at 9 o'clock in the morning in a holiday, and we wouldn't come back. But as long as we were back by 5, that was sort of the... They didn't know where we were. They didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. I'm not even sure they cared, to be honest. No, I'm sure they did, but it didn't feel like it. It was like, I remember one of the conferences, they talked about how, society's distance from travelling from home now is just so much smaller. In the 80s it was like very vast, and then it shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And it's so true, because I wouldn't let my kids go much further than maybe a couple of fields behind my house on their own. And one of them's 9 and one of them's 11. And even then I'm feeling a bit like, ooh, is that okay? But actually, when I think about it, we did literally go miles and miles. But there was a big group of us. We were always together. We never went on our own. Yeah. It was always like 5 or 6 children together.
Yes.
So maybe that was different. I don't know.
Yeah, so exactly the same for me. And I think I was talking to somebody this week about that, and they were kind of going, oh yeah, it's terrible. And I think there's a lot of, if we think about these topics, we often kind of blame ourselves as parents, or like feel bad about it and feel guilt and feel shame. But I was when I have read about that same thing, the maps of the distances, that one of the biggest reasons why children don't roam so far is increased traffic on the roads. And actually that is just the way the world is, and it's not about like our attitudes necessarily as parents. Like our instinct is, oh, maybe it's not safe, for good reason. Like the number of children involved in traffic accidents over even just the last 20 years has completely skyrocketed. So I think we can kind of cut ourselves some slack there and go, rather than us over parenting or being, do you know what I mean, and not allowing the children their freedom, we are quite rightly worried that crossing a road when maybe you don't have that awareness, or you're really in the, you're playing and you're not thinking about whether a car is coming, it is true. And
it's easy to see that statistic, isn't it, of the shrinking map, and then pin it on a single data point that must be parental perception, which you wouldn't look at anything else and go like, there is a single cause for this. It's to do with like, probably a bit of parental attitudes, but also, like you say, more cars, or like stuff being divided up by bigger roads. People sometimes come past here and say, we were talking to someone the other day who said, oh yeah, we used to come up to this woods, but we used to walk from the village over there, and it would be a surprise if we saw one car between the village and here, whereas now the road that cuts through this woods is a little rat run, and people are going, and so just there's like 3 or 4 examples there of like these are different reasons that affect that map.
I grew up in Norfolk, and as a child I would cycle with my friend and we'd go 20-mile hike to the beach on our bikes, and our parents didn't really even know where we were, to be honest, because there were no phones and that kind of thing. Whereas I now live on the edge of Christchurch in the village, and I have the forest across the main road from me, but I didn't let my children go in that forest to play on their own. I used to go with them to build in, but not on their own,
Yeah.
because that road was just too dangerous to cross.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes
I feel bad about that.
I know.
I had their safety in mind.
Yeah, and then you think, is that really true? Is the traffic that bad? And then you think back to like when we were kids, like we didn't have a car when I was growing up, and lots of families in my street didn't have a car, and some people had, might have one car, but now most families, lots of families have more than one car. Like if they have teenage kids or whatever, they've got a car each, and it's just like that increased volume of traffic we can't really do much about. Anyway,
I'll pull it back from nostalgia lane. Because one of the things that we wanted to ask was, you guys have got, obviously you've both talked about doing your forest school training, and from chats that we've had before, we're all like in the forest school world. We've got it. We've got the similar like views on the principles and all these things. But you guys are in a different Ofsted category to us. Thank you so much for listening, everybody, and we wanted to let you know that we want to hear from you, the Forest School community. If you've got questions, topics you'd like to explore, books you want us to review, share your ideas and thoughts with us by emailing childrenoftheforest@outlook.com. Your input is what fuels our episodes, and we can't wait to connect with you. So we did the kindergarten thing, and for us, it was too much. We couldn't navigate the early years Ofsted stuff.
in addition to the stuff
that we were already doing, and where it did and didn't work with things we were thinking or feeling or whatever. And now we're on a different Ofsted thing, which is like we get checked for safeguarding and for health and safety. Our content doesn't get checked. But you guys are still in that. You guys are in that Ofsted world. So how do you find balancing? Because some people, I think, have a really strong view that like forest school doesn't fit with Ofsted, and some people would view that like, oh, you just need to do X, Y, and Z and work it around. What do you guys do in these things?
Primarily, we're forest school, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we have the woods. They come every day. We have forest trained staff. So we tick all the boxes in terms of forest school principles. And I think Ofsted and early years are coming round to our thinking, or maybe just listening to us a bit better, and we're a bit braver now to tell them, this is what we're doing, and this is how it fits into what you want.
And I think it does.
So we're kind of braver, aren't we?
It massively depends on your Ofsted inspector. If you've got someone who turns up, no offence to them, and someone who's not dressed to go outside, and it's pouring down rain, and you're looking at them straight away, you know that actually this is not going to go so well.
You're so luck of the draw.
Yeah, and I think, that outstanding Ofsted, that person, she turned up and straight away you knew she was up for it. She came in the right gear. She wanted to know how we did it, and whereas some of the other people that I've met before, and you can tell straight away that they just don't get it. Maybe.
No.
I think that's fair. I would say.
I think they are leaning slightly. They're making it slightly easier for us to be part of it now.
There's less paperwork.
There's less paperwork, and paperwork when you're in the woods. As you know, trying to do paperwork when all you really want to do is be with the children and listen to the children's ideas. Paperwork just intrudes on that, doesn't it? And it's hard. Whereas they've cut back and allowed us to not do so much paperwork now, and it's more about how we want it to look, isn't it? So we've been traditionally always a scrapbook and a photograph album, and the children look at that and embrace it and do it with us, and that's as far as our paperwork goes, isn't it?
It is,
we pretty much don't do anything else now. That is all we do.
Planning wise, again,
hold it right back.
If you want to use some of the terms from Ofsted, in the moment planning, we were obviously doing that before it was even a term.
Yeah, and now you can pay to go on training.
You pay
about it.
I remember
a
relative of mine who had a nursery. She's like, "Oh my god, this new thing. It's in the moment planning." She owned a nursery. I was like, "This is a do you not do that anyway?"
Now it's got a trademark symbol next to it or whatever.
I think that's slightly. Before I did my PGCE, I had to go and do some volunteering in the school. Makes sense. Because before you even apply, they're like, you have to sign off 3 weeks or whatever it was. And I went into a school, and I can remember, it's a really formative memory, seeing the teacher come in from lunch and go, I haven't got this planned, I don't know what we're doing, this is called teaching by the seat of your pants. And I think something embedded in the back of my memory, because that's the only way I ever taught as a proper teacher, as a student teacher, and now doing this. Something in that formative, like, okay, I went to see a teacher, and they didn't have a plan and they just did a lesson all afternoon and it was fine. That would be fine.
Our best days when there is no plan. Most of it is that anyway.
Days are like that,
I mean, we do all the things like Christmas crafts and Mother's Day, Father's Day, things that some of the parents
expect.
Yeah, basically. And they do like it and the kids do enjoy it. So we do those sort of things. But actually every day you just don't know. You know, a couple of weeks ago we got there and it was even before the storms and this huge oak tree had come down. So that straight away, that changed our day. Because like risk assessment was all like, oh, actually there's something really exciting to go and see. And then we, hot day the fence and followed with the tree down to where its roots were, that completely, not through the whole day, but then that just knocks everything else slightly behind. So then you have to just improvise. I'm quite good at winging it, aren't I? Winging.
We all just
It's
do
my
that,
favourite
though, don't
thing.
we? Yeah, okay, yeah, because we have to cross the field from where the children are dropped off to where the actual woodland is.
Yeah.
And that field that's where the day begins, in that field. So
And that can take
written
10 minutes,
into our
can't it?
plan
I was
is,
gonna
that
say,
field takes 10 minutes across, and if you look at what it says on our admissions forms, then we should be in the woods by 9:15. We're
Never
very rarely
happens.
there. Very.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not even there till 10, are we? Because whatever lends itself in the field, and it might be icy, there might be ice in the water.
Yeah.
We've got a massive chestnut tree, so
That
there's
chestnut
always
tree.
something to look at in the chestnut tree, or there's deer in the field, or
Yeah.
badger tracks, or
The world
something
flowers,
to see and
Yeah.
embrace ourselves with, and the children just want to dig in the molehills, don't
the
they?
crickets, the amount of crickets and grasshoppers.
So
They spend
sometimes
hours
we don't
picking
get
those
to the
up.
woods until it's time to have snack,
Yeah.
because that's part of the day, though. That's not
Do
a
you
waste
think-
of time. That's
You were saying that you've got a bit more like, you're not on the back foot so much. You can go to Ofsted and say, we're going to do this, or this is why we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys are afforded that because of your history with Ofsted? Like, how much do you think the outstanding thing, did that then go the next time they come, you've got it? Do you know, would it be the same
No.
for someone who was setting something up now? Would they be in the same position as you? Or is it historic, like, once you've got there, then you've got a seat at the table?
No,
no, I don't think it did. No.
no. I don't think so.
We did drop a grade this time.
Yeah,
didn't
we have been actually offset since then. When was that? Last year? This year? This year?
Last year.
I can't remember.
22.
But there was again loads of variables. Say we had a new member of staff come in. Another member of staff had been away. We'd been through COVID. Another member of staff had gone away before COVID, got stuck over there, and then had only just come back. So she'd actually almost had a year out.
Right.
So there were loads of different variants, and actually we got marked down for basically not always allowing the children to take a risk when needed, which actually on a normal day
We do.
but on that
Yeah.
particular day, for whatever reason, a couple of us, one of us, we don't even know who,
Just because of where you were,
made that call,
Yeah.
did too much.
Like that.
That's very interesting to hear, because I'm sure lots of our listeners would, one of the reasons that we're really keen to talk to you guys is because we do get quite a lot of questions from listeners about like when we used to run the kindergarten and any advice for setting up and that kind of thing. And I think it was definitely our fear about like Ofsted, like you're saying. Depends who you're going to get.
Yeah.
Are you going to get someone who goes, you let them do what? Oh my God, that it's going to be too risky, that you're outdoors all the time, that it might be like a bit too challenging for the children environmentally and, temperature wise and weather and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite interesting to hear that Ofsted were going, well, actually, no, they need to take more risks in your setting,
Yeah.
even if it's something you would usually do.
And because of our backgrounds and stuff as well, like some of us will obviously take more risks with a child than maybe others would. And again, that's absolutely fine. And it's down to the day, and you can't argue the point. We could have gone back, and we did sort of talk to our early as well, didn't we, saying, should we argue this point? And at the end of the day, it was on that particular day, we just weren't shining the way we should have been, and that's unfortunate. We're still happy though, because we got a good, and
But
actually...
it sounds like with good reason.
Yeah,
You've got
fair play.
that level of
Lots of
staff change
variables.
and you've got those
Yeah.
other things going on.
Yeah. But that was really the only thing she could say that was negative, really, wasn't it?
We don't consider our practice as negative from that.
No.
We still consider that we are still an outstanding setting, don't
Yeah.
we? Because we're still practicing the same.
Yeah.
Easier to be in that position as well. I know lots of
Takes the
people-
pressure off a little
Yeah,
bit.
when you're outstanding, there's only one way to go.
Yeah.
When
And
so we've done that now.
And actually, the criteria had changed as well.
it
So
has, yeah.
we'd had COVID as well, and then the benchmarks had changed to get to the outstanding, and also all the paperwork. We were still sort of like, well, we don't actually know which paperwork we need, and the advice was all like, we've just got to make this decision. It was like, you're meant to be telling us how, give us some sort of indication, and it was really difficult to know.
Fluffy at the
Yeah,
time,
it was
wasn't
very fluffy, so we didn't really know what was expected anyway, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you, you mentioned your early years advisor, so that would be from your council. Do you find that, because we had a lot of help from them, and that is something that actually you don't see come up very often in these kind of discussions about, I'm a forest school practitioner and I want to do some early years stuff, and until you said that, I actually even forgot that we had one.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
But she was, when we did contact her, she was so helpful, and things like, training and that you might need to have and all that kind of thing. Do you feel like you've got a lot of support from the council and they understand like what you're doing?
I talk to her more than I do.
Yeah, she doesn't come in as often as she used to. Pre-COVID, she was in.
She was,
setting,
every
wasn't
couple of
she?
weeks.
But I think
wow.
from council cuts, presumably, that they don't tend to visit, especially the ones that are
Doing all right.
doing okay. And
Yeah,
from my own
yeah.
experience as a development officer, that's certainly how we operated. We always went to see the poorer ones that needed more support. So I guess, from that perspective, we're not supported in that way, but I don't particularly feel we need it.
I
And
think if
do
we
have-
phoned her up, we do phone her up quite
I
regularly,
do
don't
have
we?
regular discussions with her about, children that we're worried about, and she's very supportive in that way. So she's definitely got our back,
And she
and she
gets us.
understands what we do.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
she,
really
even if
nice
she
to
doesn't
know.
visit, she's still there in the background, and I know I can always contact her, and she usually gives me a pretty smart answer.
I would say
and
actually,
pretty
if
sharp
anything,
answer.
our setting does help in that respect, because people they're interested in how we do things. So I do think we maybe get a little bit more help. So we also get a health visitor who comes out regularly, whereas any other like nursery in our catchment, so to speak, they haven't seen a health visitor for I don't know how many years. So
So they want to come because
They
it's
want to come.
unusual.
One for our setting now, and she comes.
we just phone her up and she's like, I'm coming.
Every couple
So-
of months she comes and visits, which is great.
Hey podcast listeners, if you are enjoying the show, there's a small but very powerful thing you can do to support us, and it's completely free. If you can take a moment to rate, review and share the podcast, it means the world to us in terms of sharing all the wonky goodness that we're getting up to with more and more people. Thank you so much to everybody that's already left reviews. We do read them and try and reply to people if we can. Sharing it and getting the word out to more people really helps what we're doing. Thank you all so much.
There is that. That's helpful.
Cool. Yeah. And do you feel like you can kind of, because you've got those links, you can signpost to families as well? Because that's one of the things, isn't it, about running an early years setting, is that you've got kind of an added layer of responsibility, that you do feel like you're not just looking after the children, you are kind of looking after the families, and you're there because you might be the
Social hub type thing, isn't it?
and you might be the first sort of formal education setting that a family is going to ever encounter if it's their first child, and so things that they might need support with above and beyond just care of their children, that you might be the first, point of contact for that. So you kind of feel like you need to know all the stuff to signpost them.
And I think that's
too.
something we do amazingly
Yeah,
well,
it is,
isn't it? I'm very proud of how we are with our families, because we know every single family, every member of the family. We know all of the family by name, first names, and we make that a really important thing to do, isn't it? And
Yeah, we are a
feedback
community.
every single day to the parents. We don't just reserve it for progress catch-ups and that sort of thing. We know them on a daily basis, and we feedback every single day.
And how do you do that? Is that always face to face or?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get amazing reports from parents,
Yeah.
don't we? And they send every single sibling that they've had. I mean, we've got one, to quote one now, we've got one that's now, sending her sixth child to us. isn't
Yeah.
she?
Whoa.
So, yeah.
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 So I think we're highly regarded amongst our community.
Yeah,
aren't we?
yeah, we
And
definitely
a
are.
lot of word of mouth.
And
passing
yeah,
on.
and we still get a lot of our families coming through word of mouth. It's not through Facebook or Instagram or my really rubbish website, but it is through people have come, seen it, and then talked about it somewhere else, and then they send someone else this way. We've had 3 families, haven't we, last couple of weeks, all come from a smaller village locally, and they've all heard about us, and that sort of spread through their little network of mums. So
I think it's a really underrepresented bit of forest school. There's a lot of stuff, particularly I felt, at least when I did my training, that this thing is like you're going into schools and you're doing 6 weeks at a time with a class, or you're running toddler groups, and it's like, because the energy for lots of forest school companies and settings and whatever at the start is so like, just get people through the door, it can become a bit faceless, because it becomes just like, I just need the numbers, I just need people in today. And then I think, most forest school settings I know, whether that's home ed settings or nursery settings or whatever else, that have been, it's almost like, not, I don't want to say survived because that makes it sound too harsh, but like become well established. I think lots of people's mindset moves to, I need 15 solid families. I need a community that is 20 people big. I don't need loads of one-off toddler group people that come in, do one thing, or do a Christmas thing, or do it like. I get it if you need to make ends meet, and you're, you know, on paper we all need that money, but longevity-wise, having for any setting that core, that community thing, rather than just like, oh yeah, came, did forest school, goodbye. That like social hub. You are building that thing. You are first name basis with people. You are like seeing siblings come through. That's. I was going to say, I think that's a mark of a good setting, and I don't think that. I think it's it's just an interesting thing that comes up with lots of settings.
It proves its worth though, because we have our adventure in the woods as well, don't we? So all of our past children who no longer come to us, those families still communicate with us. They're still desperate to come.
Yeah,
to
when
our
are you doing an adventure in the woods?
When's the next holiday club? When can we come?
Oh, is that your holiday club? It's called
Adventure in the Woods.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we get lots of past children, to the point where they get to 11, which is our cut-off point, and they're still saying, "Can we still come? Can we still come?"
Yeah.
And those children came to us when they were 3 and 4, and they still want to come back. So I think
That's lovely.
And then that makes an easy day as well, doesn't it? 'Cause no offense
They
to them,
know.
like,
Yeah,
they know everything.
they know
You don't even
everything.
have to like tell them; they just know it and just crack on with it.
They run it.
Oh,
Don't
I'm
they
not sure.
sometimes as
I think
well?
sometimes when people come back, they remind me of the person that I was 5 years ago. I don't think that anymore. We don't do that anymore. We've moved on now. They come back and go, yeah, we can just hammer stuff into trees, can't you? Go, no, I've learned more. I've learned more than this now.
Yeah, that's funny. So does that mean that you close your nursery provision in the holidays, and so that you can offer that holiday club, or does it still run and you get additional?
Term time run, yes. But to say we're closed is slightly woolly, in terms of how much holiday we get.
Yeah.
We try to open most holidays apart from Christmas and February.
Holiday, we
Yeah.
don't.
Just
And we
it's so
usually run
cold
3
and
days,
cold.
3 days a week.
Sites
throughout the holiday.
normally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do. It's always like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, isn't it? Tends to be.
But we have a high intake, and
And again, that
sold
was
out within days usually.
that was
Yeah.
small. It was always 12, and then it moved to 15. And actually,
No, we're at
we
24,
can
aren't
only
we, some
have
days?
24 on our site anyway. That's the agreement with the person that owns the land. So
Okay.
But we frequently run a holiday club with 24 now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. And what does your normal nursery day look like? What are the hours? And
So that's from 8:45 till 4:15 for those that want to do a full day,
Yep.
or 8:45 till 2:45 for a half day.
nice. Yeah.
What's the rhythm like in terms of, you said sometimes takes an hour to get to the
Yeah.
woods, but like,
Yeah.
So we meet at the gate at the bottom of the field, cross that however long it takes. They go and hang up all their bags and pack out their bottles and stuff. They go to the fire circle. We do a risk assessment talk, so we talk about how to stay safe. We then do the walk around together, so they all pointing out mushrooms, thistles, and what to do, not do. Then it's free play. We might have a Christmassy craft or something if it so permits.
Or it might just be something that they're continuing or done
what they
the
want
day
to
before,
do.
or carry it on.
And then we call them back in for a ring time, which is where we sing our nature-based songs. Have a little chat around the fire, don't we? Yeah. We do then include to tick some days off the boxes, I suppose, to go back to that. Well, I want to, say like for phonics. Basically, we do a thing like what's falling from the trees at the moment because it's autumn, and it'll be like, I don't know, a chestnut, and then it's chestnuts falling from the trees, gather some for you and me. And we'll just sort of play with those words really, and pears and what other things that starts with pear that falls from a tree, and and that's how you sort of almost tick the Ofsted box.
Yeah.
the phonics thing is actually, I remember us finding that was like, in our minds it was going to be like, okay, we're going to need to get whiteboards and we're going to need to do this and go through, and actually it's just like, have you in some way incorporated a bit of phonics. You said some phonicky things.
Yeah, I think I went on a training course and the penny dropped for that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that would count. Or like the game that we used to play where it was, we called it the troll game, I think, because somebody pretended they were trolls one time. And it was a bit like the floor is lava. So they'd be off the floor and then you'd tell a story. But if you said a word that began with "l," then they'd have to move to a different place and those kind of things. And then they get to know the game and then they have a go at being the person who tells the story. And, and all those things, you might be doing anyway and you just don't realise that it does tick a box, but it can be quite playful,
We
can't
do
it?
another thing, actually. I can see Kirsty came up, which I actually really love when we have time to do it. It's here is a box and here is a lid. I wonder whatever's inside its head, and basically they can say whatever's in the box and out it jumps, and you can either sing a song, talk about it, discuss what it looks like, and all those other things. And that's actually really good fun. Yeah, we go around the whole circle. It might be 15 unicorns, but that's fine. And we try and come up with either a song that we actually already know, or we just improvise
We
really
improvise,
badly. But we do improvise
Oh,
a
I
lot.
love that.
We just chat about it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Describe it to us, and
Be a bit more descriptive with what they're thinking about, really.
Then we have snack. So in the winter, that's porridge of varying types. Yes, it's probably too many bowls of porridge. And in summer, we have fresh vegetables with hummus and oatcakes and stuff. And then again, off they go and do their thing. Call them back in for lunch, and that's cooked on the fire. They tend to prep it, so they do all the chopping and stuff. And then some of them go home, don't they?
Yeah.
Some of them stay for a rest, which we do encourage. They don't have to sleep, but they do need to just
A few stories.
downtime, a bit of a chat, have a story again. There's another Ofsted, we've done some stories, great, tick that box, which you have to do, unfortunately. And then
It's a bit of quiet time, don't we? 5 or 10 minutes.
and it does bring it all back down.
Sorry, the
again.
story ticks a box or the downtime ticks a box or both?
Both, really.
Yeah.
Both, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does decompress them.
Just give them time.
Oh yeah, I can see the benefit. I was just interested. I wasn't
stories
aware
mostly.
of the downtime
No.
being in there.
It is for us.
Yeah.
And then again they go off and play, and then we have a snack, and that's sort of it. So it basically revolves around the food. And
Sometimes we might go out for a walk at any point during that day, either before snack, between snack and lunch, or after lunch. Depending on who's in and who we think is capable of
So the
walking, or what there is to go and look at.
the site is on like an old coppicy bit, so it's fair. It's not massive, but it's big enough. And we then have the wider woods, which is acres and acres and acres of woodland with an old Mott and Bailey castle in as well, so called Castle Hill. So we can trudge up to Castle Hill.
It's full of bluebells in the spring.
Yeah.
It's got a Christmas tree enclosure, which we're
The badger sets,
like
which
to go
are,
look at, and
we like going to have a wander to the badger sets. All about everything really.
Yeah.
So
plenty of mushrooms and toadstools.
Yeah. Do you have any indoor space?
yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
A thing called the Bothy,
Yeah.
which is like a little house on the prairie made of wood. There's a wood burner inside it. There's a wooden step ladder going up to a mezzanine floor where we do some storage. It's got a lovely wooden table in it and lots of wooden toys. So it's all Steiner based, really. Isn't
Yeah.
it? From Kirsty's background, so yeah, no plastic. Yeah.
And do you use that every day? Or
It's used for storms and windy weather, as the children will quote.
Yeah, and if they've got to the point where they just can't, if some of them just haven't got the right clothes and you've layered them up, but they've got to that point where they're just too cold and you can't get warm again, that's when you'd be like, actually, let's call it.
It has rained and rained and rained all
Yes.
day. And
Like a couple of Wednesdays
puddles
ago.
are great. but
Yeah.
There is a point where puddles become a little bit annoying, isn't there? And
Yeah,
you
so-
do have to decamp. And
Oh, the same with
strip or clean
snow.
up and-
Oh my gosh, we've had some
Start again.
amazing like snowy days over the last couple of years. But I was thinking about this week because they were having leaf fights and like piling the leaves up into huge piles and absolutely decking each other with the leaves. And I was like, this is absolutely brilliant because it's got all of the benefits of snowball fighting, but without the, oh my God, I've gone through my third set of clothes.
Yeah.
It's got, I'm now soaking. And like, they're some of the only times where we've had to finish early and called it and gone,
Yeah.
parents, I think maybe you need to come pick them up now because they have had an amazing time, but they are absolutely soaking.
Yeah.
And we've got to the limit of like hot drinks, hot snacks. And yeah.
So yeah, we would go in there then, but
So we'd cook on that stove, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And get it all warm inside.
and we try, if we know it's going to be the day like that, we do light the fire in there, because actually sometimes going into the bottle is actually colder than it is being outside, so trying to get it warmer in there just in case we're going to use it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we preempt that actually it's going to be one of those days where we need to go in.
And do most of your children come to you for more than one day, or do you have many children that are going to a more traditional nursery setting and to you guys?
Yeah, all of that really. Yeah, some only come for one day, and because they stay at home with their parents for the rest, or they go to grandparents. So there's quite a lot of grandparent care going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Some go to us and other places. A lot of parents say they want them to go to the school that they're then planning to go
I think that
to.
tends to, they might have more days, don't they, to start with, and then
Yeah.
towards sort of like April time next year, they'll be like, actually, they're going to be going to school, so we're going to drop a day here and send them to another like setting. So
A lot of our children come for at least 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Some come for 4 days a week. So yeah, it's quite variable, isn't it, between the children?
Yeah.
That's very interesting, that thing, isn't it? That, like, because I think some of that move, like you're saying, the last year before they might go to a state school or whatever, is like, some of it is to socialise with different people,
Yeah, make friends.
and then
So-
sometimes it's to secure a space, you know, because it's like, oh, as long as you've got your name on there, you get in, whatever. And then some of it's got that air of like school. I'm using air quotes for people who can see.
yeah, no, I was just
The
School readiness.
School readiness.
Yeah.
We had this conversation on the way.
did.
Oh, go on.
Yeah.
Go on. So what's your?
makes us want to
Cringe.
vom.
It's cringe. It's my hate phrase. I hate it.
That was a box ticking thing actually as well. They wanted us to do some paperwork, didn't
Some
they?
paperwork last year, and I point blank refused to send it. Didn't give it to the parents. Didn't do anything with it.
Really?
Just
Yeah.
kept it in the bag for the whole of the winter term. Didn't do anything with it.
Who
I
who
will not
wanted you to do that? The schools that you were
Dorset
feeding into, or the
Council.
council?
Yeah.
Right.
And what kind of thing were they asking for?
Asking us to complete a form with the parents about how they felt their child was going to be, air quotes, ready for school.
Right.
We avoid it at all.
Hey, lovely Forest School people. I know people listening to this, you are bored of doing damper bread. You are bored of doing marshmallows. You're probably bored of doing hot chocolate. So, I wanted to let you know about the book Forest School Cooking that I've written. It is half recipes that are going to take you away from the boring marshmallows and damper bread that are driving you mad, and into like cool meals and things on sticks and fast things and slow things. And the other half of the book is all about different ovens and stoves and things that you can build to cook in different ways. I know we personally have had it where you realise that what we're doing this week, we're frying something on the frying pan. What we're going to do next week, we're going to fry something in the frying pan. So building up loads of different ovens like rocket stoves and pizza ovens, it's all in the book, and it helps you to grow your cooking from something that the kids are just waiting to get the sugar into them to something that they're actually enjoying and getting a bit more out of that cooking. So you can find your copies on Amazon of Forest School Cooking and take your cooking to the next level today.
Well, I remember we sent some very. I mean,
Yeah.
in the scheme of things, I can imagine being the reception intake teacher and looking at this list of very traditional paperwork that you must get from
They
all
were
the
like
nurseries.
handover forms about the children, so it wasn't
But then
for
ours
the
would have
parents.
been proper wonk.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
We
somebody
really
going like, yes,
discussed
they've
it,
got the
didn't we?
phonics and they've got this, and then
Yeah.
there's one from us that goes like, great at tree climbing. It doesn't quite yet, one of the things that I always remember we had was we were always interested in whether somebody could laugh at a joke about themselves. That was one of our like really interesting markers that we used to watch with people. And putting that in a report tells you loads about the person. And so we would put in like,
I can't remember what else
wonky
was
stuff
on there.
like
We spent a long time designing the form to go, okay, well, we have to do this handover. We've been asked to do it. We don't want to do, that traditional, like, yes, they can sit still and they can concentrate and they know their numbers and all that stuff. We wanted it to be reflective of what the kids were literally doing with us and the things that we, actually appreciated and observed. I wish I could remember what else was on the form, but I do remember thinking, gosh, this teacher is going to be like, all right, okay then, And especially if we were the only setting that a child was going to, I kind of felt slightly duty bound to kind of not warn the teacher, but just be like, just so you know that this is the way, this is the only setting this child's been to, and we do things very differently, because that's one of the things I was asking about why, whether you had children that went to other settings, because we were only open one day a week, which we realised one of the reasons we did end up finishing the kindergarten was because we believed in what we were doing, we knew we were offering a great thing, but we knew that to make it actually the best it could be, it needed to be probably 3 days a week at the very least, because in a row, because lots of the kids that came that did go to other settings, especially because it was after the weekend as well, it was a Monday, for some children, just adjusting to, okay, I'm outside, I'm with these different children, with these different adults, and the expectations of how this is run and the things that we do here, or the things we don't do usually, the rules we don't have, take quite a long time to get used to. So
the lunchtime before everyone was like back in there like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Here we're allowed to
and
do this, for example. So just being, so, you know, there'll be a lot of time like, oh, Gemma, Lewis, so-and-so's doing this. It's like, yeah, that's allowed. You know, oh, okay. So-and-so's still having a go on the swing and I want to go and I told them to share and they won't. And like, yeah, well, they're allowed to do that. You know, it was a thing about other nurseries using like timers.
I've never really thought of that.
So, you know, and for some children, it took them a while to get used to it. But maybe you guys don't have that because
I think we get the impact from other nurseries too. We certainly see it on children that are staying and have gone to school.
We get some of the songs like "Make a Circle" that comes out a couple of times. I'm like, oh, okay.
A, B, C,
yeah,
D,
yeah, you get that, but I don't think it affects what they can and can't do. Well, I've never thought about it, so I don't actually know. I'm going to have to go back and check now because I don't
question our rules, do they? If they've come from somewhere else, they seem to just flow straight back in.
That's good.
Yeah, they know what we do. They know what our rules are, as minimal as they are, and they know how it works.
Yeah. How do you settle new children into your setting? What does that look like for them? Does it depend on the child, or do you have a kind of standard approach?
We're very nurturing, incredibly nurturing.
It take a long time.
Yeah, we offer everybody as a first port of call. It's just, hi, thanks for finding us. Come and see us. That's kind of how we run with it. It's just come and see us, because we might not be what you think we are.
Yes,
that's we might not be what we look like on our website. We might not be what you really think you want. But come and see us, and then you'll see us in the raw doing a day with the children. We're not hiding anything. This is exactly how we are on a day. You know, and you might come on a rainy day, come on your waterproof, put your wellies on, and come and find us. You know. And we've recently had a parent, haven't we, that
and
came
it was
on
the
worst
most
day of
torrential
the year,
day I've ever known in my life. We had
Still
literally a
wants to
river running through.
and has enrolled their child.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, but that's kind of what we do, isn't it? And most people come for that visit, and I think we've very rarely had anyone that's gone, no, it's not for us, have we? Most people have gone, yes, this is exactly what we want for our child and more. And this has exceeded our expectations. And then when can I sign them up? Is what we usually get, isn't it?
Then it's sort of baby steps.
Come after, you know.
Isn't it? Because they again, some of the kids will just walk in and just been like they've always been there. And then maybe 3-4 weeks in, they'll be like, oh, actually, this is when they need that reassurance. And then their parents might then they might start crying and wanting their parents again. So then have to almost take a step back and go, yes, you came in great, but let's review this now. We have others that take a long time to settle for whatever reason. And again, since COVID, I think that's been quite a thing, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's a case they'll come up, say mum, dad, whoever, for morning, so a couple of hours, then they'll go home. The next time they come, they'll come. Mum or dad will be asked to go and have a little walk around the field, or to go back to the car to get a coat and try and leave them and see how that goes. But always try and end on a happy note. We never try and push it to the point where actually, where's my mum, and then cry. Because if they're ending on a negative, they're not going to want to come back anyway.
And that includes even if they go early, so rather than staying till 1, they'll go at 11. They're happy at 11, but we can see they might be tired by 1. So
and then it's just
now while they're happy.
Notching it up each time, and we stagger starts as well. So if we've got especially in September when you due to have a lot of children maybe starting, it would be actually let's get one settled and give them 2 weeks, and then we'll try and start another one.
I was looking at a school the other day. A parent asked us to. I don't know what it was. It was write a form for something, or would you write down what you're doing? But it meant that I had to look at this other school's website for it, and they were talking about. They were saying they do. It was either applications or intakes via a constellation model, and they were saying that they take the group as the current constellation, and then in terms of new people coming in, they don't do top of the list, who's been waiting longest, who's whatever else. They look at everything they've got to know about the people on the waiting list and go, you would actually fit really well into this constellation, so you're the next person that comes in. Or this
it was a Steiner school, I think.
It was a Steiner school, and we were quite interested because it sounded slightly illegal, but it sounded weirdly like that system could really be abused. But in terms of going we won't have that person.
Well, it's on paper they look,
which I think. Yeah. If you were being really pessimistic, you probably could look at that system and go, that is so that you can not have difficult people on paper, because you forever go, unfortunately the constellation means, it's not quite right. But with a really rose-tinted view of that, I think there's some merits there to going, like you're saying about if people settle at the right times or at the right year, and you go, okay, well, how long does that person need? Well, if that person's still settling, don't bring another person in, and holding that. Do you know what I mean?
It's
There's two sides of that.
The way they described it at the school was that they're kind of honouring the needs of the group, the children that are already there first. So it's about considering what they need before they bring in new people. So if you kind of word it that way, that kind of, I can see there.
The benefit of the whole rather than...
Yes.
Yeah, because it would be difficult if if like we all operate relatively small groups, and we know the impact that someone who might be very settled and very like, this is my space and this is my happy place, and then the next person that applies top of the list comes in, and that person can dramatically change their happy place, and so you kind of get in this weird place of, okay, well, do we have to protect this person because they're already here, or but we've got room for that person, and maybe financially you have to bring more people in.
Yeah, this is also the thing. It's like, we've actually got 3 spaces, but do you know what? We're not going to bring in 3 children right now because the group at the moment is working, and the experience.
I can see why that would be a benefit, because we've had times when we've had new kids come in and it's just completely changed like the whole day.
The dynamics.
And it's just like really, some days work better.
I do find with lots of stuff like this though, like with coming for meetings or for going, right, this is how we do the settling in process, or suggesting like, actually it'd be better to do 2 half days, stuff like that. People are way more open to that, in not just in state education, but like in younger children in general, whether they're going to go into home education or whether they're going to, like, under, I would say, 5 or 6, people I find are way more open to a conversation about like, okay, well, what might be the best here, and how can we adapt this? And then something happens as it moves up, and people kind of go, well, I'd like to book in on this. I'd like a flat book in on this time, and if you could just accommodate and do the thing.
Yeah. Well, it's the benefit, isn't it, of being able to be flexible. And if you're in a bigger institution like a primary school or a secondary school, you haven't necessarily got that manoeuvrability to go, okay, well, for that person, they need to actually not come on that day or whatever.
And we're quite honest if it's not working as well. I mean, we've had children come to us and their parents are so desperate for it to work, and actually, at one point, we just have to say, look, we're going to call it, I don't think this is the right place for your child. I mean, we've done that, haven't we?
We have done that, yeah.
That is interesting.
It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
But we have. I mean,
parents are more invested in the outdoors than maybe the children really are.
Yeah. It's whose
so
joy is it
that
that you're?
Absolutely.
Parents want it to be the thing, but it's not right for the child.
That's I think we find ourselves saying that increasingly, not to families. I mean about, like, if we're having discussions with other adults, whether they're forest school people or not, that an adult might be like starting this conversation with like, oh, the thing about being like, all kids just should be outdoors all the time, like, so well-meaning, so pro forest school, pro outdoor education. And I think you and I are both find ourselves kind of going, but not always for everybody.
Well, it sounds weird because it sounds like you're underselling yourself to be like, actually, what I do is rubbish, but there's not what we mean.
No,
We're
it's
just
more
being
about
honest
it isn't for everybody, and it doesn't mean it's not for you forever. It just means that right now
it's not the right place,
and you don't know what challenges might be. So the behaviour that we might see with a child that you think, it's just not working for them. They're consistently upset. They're not playing. They're not relaxed. They're not at ease. And there's a myriad of reasons why that might be. Whether it's a sensory thing, whether it's about just a physical thing, whether they're emotionally not ready to be away from their parents. There's so many things, and we're not necessarily here to kind of diagnose that or judge what it is, but we are here to go, actually, it's not in the child's best interest to be here, and I have to be honest about that. And the same with adults as well. Lots of adults might come to a toddler group and go, I really want this for my child, but then it's making them really miserable. Like, they might have circulation problems. We've had people going, no, I'm just so flipping cold for 2 hours. I can't enjoy this. And actually, maybe I'll, come back later with another adult that can bring my child or whatever. So just being realistic, I think, and down to earth, rather than just a blanket whitewash of like, this is going to fix all the problems in the world.
You are
this
enjoying
is
it.
amazing.
You will enjoy it.
This is the way nature intended, and you should be outside.
I think that was the whole post-COVID thing as well, wasn't it? Sorry. That was the whole thing, wasn't it, as well with us? I've got children that have been inside, told to keep clean, told not to do X, Y and Z. Then they came to us with that whole, they need to have fresh air now. But you sent them into an outside space with people they don't know, and they're going to have dirty hands, and it's gone against everything that those children have probably only ever known in their lives. They've never known anything else other than to walk around with being scared of dirt and mess and mud and going outside and meeting people. And now you want them to do that.
That big shift, isn't it?
Whoa.
I'm conscious of not taking up too much of your time, but I think people listening would definitely want us to ask if there are people listening to this who are like, God, I really have got this idea in the back of my head. Maybe they already run toddler groups or they already do child minding, but they want to set up an outdoor nursery. Do you have any like either words of wisdom or God, don't do this particular thing, or like, oh, make sure you get this nailed first? Is there anything that you would...
I think my advice would be go round and look at other settings, because I think for a long time we were one of the only settings, especially down in Dorset, that were doing what we're doing now. And you almost get into that mindset of like, oh, we're the only ones doing this and we're doing it the best. But actually, maybe we weren't. And for a while we probably weren't, because I'd started coming to the gatherings and stuff and had gone to other sites. And I was like, actually, guys, we need to up our game and have a look around and see what else we need to be doing, which is probably why we both actually go to the gatherings, I think, to get...
Page,
so you shop around to get, don't just think, oh, I'm going to look at that model and that's what I want to do. I think you almost need to take bits from all of your experiences and other people's experiences, maybe.
Which is so hard, right? Because part of the level 3 training is you should be ready to go off and set up a forest. You know, if you read all of what it's supposed to be, it's like you do your level 3. I don't know anybody really, myself included, and I did it, that is ready to set up a forest school business right hot off a level 3.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. Well, Kirsty was lucky. She obviously lives on the estate as well. So, and the landlady is the most amazing elderly lady. She's in it. I think she's 83 now, bless her. And she just could see what Kirsty wanted to do. She knew that Kirsty had this plan. She could see where it was going to go, and just completely honoured that, really, and sort of gave her this land and said, you know, do what you want on it, really, as long as you're being respectful to it. And that was sort of the agreement with both of them for a long time. And so, I mean, they were already, I think when Kirsty set up the nursery, they were an indoor nursery on a different estate. And they had like a tennis court, I think. They spent a lot of time on this tennis court outdoors. And when the estate said, actually, we want that space now, they had to find somewhere else. So I think Kirsty took it to her garden for the time being on this current estate. And that's when negotiations happened with the landlady. She goes, well, I've got this bit of land, you should, you know, use that and do what you want. So she was really lucky. But I think for anyone trying to start out, trying to find land is your biggest.
Yeah,
like,
that would be one of mine, is the environment. Really is key to what do you want to do with it and what you're expecting from your environment. Because the environment is everything, isn't it? If you've got the right environment, then that's what you are, isn't it? Yeah. And
that's difficult. So, and like going into schools is different. So on a Monday, I go into a local school, mainly because my children were out at school at the time. They're not now, and I do sessions of forest school with them as a freelance. And that's completely different to what I do at nursery, although I try and keep it very similar, much to probably the teacher's annoyance. Like, oh, what are we going to do today? I'm doing science and we should do this. I'm like, no, we're just going to do this today. And actually then they probably don't want to do it anyway. We just do something completely different. So that's, I think a lot of people end up going to schools, and it's almost detrimental, really, because you get squashed in what you want to do, and if your expectations of forest school, and because of forest school should be this kind of model, it's then you're not doing that, and you're eking further and further away from that because the way the schools want you to do it.
I think that's that too.
Yeah, you used to say
I did a year of doing freelance stuff in various schools in Bournemouth and Poole, and that was very much the teachers were there. How does this link to the curriculum? What are you doing? I can't see them doing anything. They're just outside. What are they doing? Show me. And I had to fill in forms and tick boxes, and it was silly.
It's also a waiting
room. It wasn't
as
a
well.
Forest school, and it was in their playground. And how do you make a playground into a forest school? It's I don't know.
I'm a strong believer as well, like fate and things happen for a reason. Like, I feel like my path was always going to take me back to where I am now, sort of thing. And just waiting for that opportunity. I mean, I'd done my forest school training for probably a year, and I did a couple of volunteer days at Elves, and I just waited. Someone please leave. And I got lucky, and I would love to have my own nursery for sure, but actually with the amount of paperwork that comes with it, I don't think I'd want it. And actually, I've got it pretty cushy.
Yeah, I was going to ask about what you think, because we do speak to so many people who say, I'd love to do this, but realistically there aren't that many entirely outdoor nurseries. I think lots of nurseries are kind of embracing forest school and going out for a day a week or an afternoon a week, and we've done that as part of our taking our stuff and going to places, not just schools but to nurseries as well. And I just think it works so well with early years. It's like it really works well, doesn't it, as you've been saying. But what do you guys think are the main kind of challenges with running an entirely outdoors nursery? What are the main kind of
Your team.
Yeah,
Your team are super important. I think people underestimate how important your team are and the staff that you choose. And you have to choose super carefully when you're doing an outdoor nursery, because people will tell you they like being outdoors.
but they haven't got a clue.
They don't, and it becomes very evident when you employ them.
My first thing is
We
if
do like
they
interviews on a wet Wednesday.
when they do,
They have a trial couple of sessions in the woods, and we almost
we make
do
them
that
pull the
before
trolley, don't
interview.
we? We've got the
Yeah.
huge trolley, which is so heavy because we have to take all our water with us. So it's all our hot water, all our fresh drinking water, then all our food for that day, which is normally tins of beans and beans and beans, more beans, and say it's a really heavy trolley. We get the kids to pull it as well, and they quite like doing that. But yeah, it's just like,
That's almost the
you just
pre-interview.
pull this trolley
We have
for
a
me.
couple of
It's
days
very
in the
physically
woods as a
demanding.
pre-interview, and we can then see who we then want to shortlist from the pre-interview of being a couple of days in the woods. And some people we just shake our heads.
I suppose that's hard, isn't it? Because I can remember the clothes that I wore starting out, and they were not appropriate. And it's that cart before the horse thing, isn't it? Where you
I'm
can
a
end up
snob.
like you haven't got the outdoor clothes because you don't work outdoors yet, because you don't know what outdoors
true.
is like.
I hadn't thought of it like
Invest in
that.
it in case you don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, better if you go. So I'm going to do the interview, and then when I get paid, then I'll get the outdoor. I know what you mean though about I think you could take the woods out of it and go I need to see you do something that is physically challenging, and then have a positive, universal positive demeanour towards somebody that is displaying behaviour that is challenging to you, so that you can be when you're physically exerted, it might be from the trolley, it might be from playing tag, it might be from just getting across the fit, just going when you're in that state, are you still?
And we have a lot of people obviously that come to us because we're obviously a nursery, so we're advertised as a nursery, and then they turn up and they are what I would create again, very nursery. And yeah, just always, we've got sort of small, no banks like this, but we've got a bank on either side, which some of the kids obviously clamber up because they're tiny, and straight away there's certain people will take a hand or and it's all they sort of no, it's this, they are actually fine, and it's if you're going to do this, you need to step right back, and some people find that really difficult, I think, and others come in and don't, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think you forget how alternative it is when you do it every day, don't you?
Yeah.
You really do. It's almost there is training now, isn't there, in outdoor kindergarten? You can do level 2 in outdoor kindergartens, but it is a whole different approach.
You can't explain it to people without them actually coming and seeing what it's like.
And having
know if they like it or not.
And having also time, I don't know if you guys have this in your team, to kind of discuss things as well, because a lot of the time you'd love to be able to have a really in-depth discussion about the ethos of the reason that we avoid saying be careful is this, that and the other, because actually researchers found this, that and the other, but you don't necessarily have time in that moment because children need you and you don't have the time and space. And so it's then how do we kind of instill and explain the ethos behind what we're doing? Do you have team meetings where you get to do that, or do you have a theme where it's actually in terms of CPD for the team, things like that? How it's just working it in. How do you do it when you're at work looking after the children and the money isn't there as well?
Money's not
is
there
it?
at all.
Because we found that one of the real challenges with running a kindergarten, because the demands financially upon you in terms of the training that you want to do, you want to upskill yourself and presumably your team, just me and Lewis, but but the money you're getting, because you necessarily are, because it's outdoors, it's forest school, you've got a smaller group of children, you've got a higher adult to child ratio. I always wonder if I'm saying that right. Is that right?
Yeah.
Higher adult to child ratio. Yes. Then you're never going to be able to make the money that an indoor, more corporate nursery is going to make.
We don't. We are running at a loss
Greatly,
currently.
even if we're lucky, but generally it's at a loss.
It's so hard,
So
isn't it?
there isn't any money for us to go on training. We have to pay.
Kirsten was trying to explain this to me the other day, actually, because obviously there's a pot of funding from the government, and then, but depending on what area you're in, whether there's loads of nurseries, you actually then get even less than that main figure. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
If you're in a socially deprived area, you get more money, or if you're in,
So we get
tick different boxes, but we don't tick any of the right boxes, so we don't get any of those
I think we
extras.
get like how much is it? £4?
Yeah.
£4 something an hour.
Yeah, well, that's the same as when we were doing it. £4.7 we used to get per child. And then we started out going, right, we want this to be accessible to everybody. We're going to accept all the places are going to be available for funding, the free government funding. But if you do that, then you can't eat yourself. Like,
Well, it's like
let alone-
factoring in, day to day running. If you work out like, okay, so it would be you taking home this much and me taking home this much. That's fine. It's when you add in the Ofsted registration fees, not your
Insurance.
upskilling, the insurance, but not even your upskilling training. Your like mandatory training of like you have to do this first aid, you have to do safeguarding, you have to do this one. That. Well, I don't think we were really aware of how much of that was when we started. Because
even if it's free, you might get free safeguarding training from the council. You've still got to be out of work for an entire day. So you've got to close for that day or turn down some freelance work to do that day or whatever. There's just so many extra
I've literally
costs.
just done my safeguarding update, but I had to do it on Saturday, and that was at a cost to the nursery.
Yeah.
So I have to do it because I'm a DSL.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice.
And we're trying to raise money, aren't we? Like coming up with harebrained schemes, trying to get some money. So cause we've got one girl who's bless her, she's been working with us for 5 years.
5 years now. Yeah.
So she came into us out of school, level 2, level 3, but she doesn't have any forest school training. And she can do it all because obviously we've taught her, but she's not qualified. And then we don't have the money to be able to pay for her to go on that training. And so we're like, okay, well we've run foraging courses or basket making or whatever, which we're going to do in the spring, but it's just trying to find that money from somewhere to be able to do that. And I think for us as well, we've been playing with the idea of doing a home ed group, haven't we? Just to try and get some, because that would then, our venture in woods basically buffers what we don't earn, doesn't it? Just about it covers it. Just
That's interesting.
which is why we do those, and that's why we always do those. When we go back to trying to get everyone in, don't we? But
plus we're also now getting a lot of children, again since COVID, I think, that now want to stay with us because we're registered for up to 8 and they want to stay longer. So in the last couple of years we've had so many children that have said, not going to reception, we want you to stay for another year, and then even then they're going, can we stay a bit longer? Trying to get
so
schools
just trying to get some money
and
in.
everything. So I think we've sussed it out, and there is definitely a need.
Yeah, there's a massive market for it, but it's just then how we, because we're waiting for Ofsted to come back to us, aren't we? That's why we haven't done it.
You could help with, because I mean we're thinking of going down the home ed route, and we're not getting a definite answer from Ofsted as to whether we need to re-register to do home ed or whether we can put it under our same umbrella. We don't.
Right.
We don't know how that would work for us.
Yeah. Do you, would those days be on the same days as your nursery children were in? Would they be a separate group, or would they all just be sort of mixed in with the younger ones?
A bit of both, yeah. Some time out and some time with the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one of the things we found, because we wanted to try and bridge that gap that happens for lots of home ed families, which is toddler groups go up to 5, lots of home ed stuff starts at 7. That's just there's a gap in the middle, and we did have some who stayed for when they were 6 and stuff, but it was with the small group always quite challenging to not have a 2-tiered system when it came down to like the phonics things or stuff like stories you have to do, and you go, well, you have to sit down because you're 5. These guys are 6, so actually they can do. I can't. Do you know what I mean? Or you have to go the other way and go, I know you don't have to do this thing, but you do because you're here with younger children. As far as I know, if you're registered, you're registered, but yeah, Ofsted are tricky to get.
Yeah,
the
early years register is more, as we said, more difficult to get onto and meet all of the criteria than the childcare register, which is older. So childcare register is from year 1 upwards. So that's what we're on, because they're the children, that's the age of child that we take without accompanying parents. So I think if you've met the early years criteria, you're probably going to meet the childcare register, but you probably need to join that as well, just for
Well, that's
good.
what we thought.
But it's not any, as far as I know. And again, this is it's a while since we did kindergarten, so it might have changed by now. But
And that's mainly for like personal reasons. That's why it's coming back. Because obviously, I've said to you guys earlier that my son's just not doing great at school, so I'm desperate to get him either out completely or at least doing flexi. So I really want to do this group within mind with him coming in. And then we would have like a core group. We've got a few other parents that said, "Oh yes, we're really interested in this," and then go from there. Because then that would bolster the nursery. Because we don't want to lose the nursery. Because that's what we all.
That's our core, isn't it?
Yeah, that's our love really. That's what we've all
yeah,
been doing for such a long. Yes, why we're there. We've been doing it for such a long time. But we just need to find something that's going to help keep it going.
I think it could be really magical. So that like idea that you've got your home ed group there on the same day as your younger children, and you maybe spend parts of your day together. So you've got that chance for mixed age play, and for the little ones to be with the older ones, and vice versa.
So it works on Adventure in the Woods because we have 3-year-olds with 11-year-olds. So we're already doing it on an Adventure in the Woods day.
Yeah.
So it'd be the same sort of setup, really. That's what we're sort of aiming for, isn't
We know
it?
it works, don't we, on site? We've tried it.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I could happily sit and chat to you for hours and hours. But just remind us again, so people, I know you said you're working on your website, but people that want to find out more about what you guys are up to, where can they head?
We have a Facebook page.
We do.
Elves and Fairies Woodland Nursery. So that's very current. We update that on a regular basis weekly, don't we, with all the stuff that we're doing, and so everything's on
And
there.
on Instagram as well, actually.
On Instagram, yeah. We do have a website. It's a little bit out of date, shall we say, at the moment. It is.
People might be listening to this months from now, so go on.
It's
It's a little
currently
out of date
update.
at the moment, so it's still on there other than taking it down, but Jen is currently in the process
Going on.
of building a
Okay.
new one, and we're feeding in all of the right information into that as we go.
So what's that one? Or should we just Google the Elves and Forest?
Google the Elves and Fairies Woodland Nursery. It will come up. It's one of the first on the searches actually for us down there. So it's there.
Yeah. And where can people find the music recordings that we spoke about briefly at the conference? So there's a couple of CDs of these.
There's a Bandcamp, isn't there?
Bandcamp is on, yes.
Yeah.
But you can buy the CD from us at info@edmontonforestschool.co.uk.
And what's the name on Bandcamp that you look for?
Whispering Leaves. Well remembered.
Whispering Leaves. Yeah, so if you're looking for
We'll
songs,
chuck it all in the description
Yeah.
under the podcast.
Yeah.
looking for
People can click
songs
through.
for groups to sing at Forest School. So they're quite sort of early years focused, aren't they? The songs and there's some poems on there as well. They're quite seasonal.
Minor, they come from books
Yeah.
that Kirsty has bought.
Kirsten's
She's got a massive
she's
library at her house.
She's folky. She's done a lot of folk
Historical
music. She's very musical, isn't she? And that's her background, really. She worked in Steiner Education for a long time.
And is it her singing the songs on the CD?
It's her and her son.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
They are lovely.
Yeah.
And actually, I think, not to negotiate the CD, but when she's singing them in the woods, without all the chinging things going on in the background, I prefer that personally. But
You have to,
She has something about her that makes the children just stop and listen and
she's
look at her in a mesmerised way.
we all stop
that-
singing
that
actually, don't
none
we?
of us can achieve. But she has this thing about her.
She is
It's
magical.
beautiful.
Yeah.
She is a beautiful lady.
Yeah. Is there anything that you guys wanted to ask us, or anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about? No.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you so much for coming.